Today's podcast is sponsored by Inverted Gear. Inverted Gear sells jiu-jitsu equipment, jiu-jitsu gis, no-gi stuff like rash guards and shorts. Their new light pearl weave gi is probably my favorite one. It's very light, very durable, very comfortable. If you go to their website, www.invertedgear.com, and type in the coupon code ShowTheArt15, no spaces, you'll get 15% off, guys. So check them out. They're great. Our next sponsor is Chimera Coffee. Chimera Coffee is packed with premium grade nootropics, proven to help you increase your focus, your power, and cognition. What are nootropics? Nootropics are powerful cognitive enhancers that may improve some aspect of mental function. What does that mean? That means it gives you a mental edge in things. I take Chimera Coffee before I train jiu-jitsu or before podcasting, and I feel like I get that caffeine jolt of energy, but I also get a mental edge, a little extra clarity, and it helps a lot. If you go to chimeracoffee.com, type in the code ShowTheArt, no spaces, and you get 10%. Go out and get it. Steve, welcome. We thank you for being on. We really, really, really appreciate it. And
yes,
we
sir.
have to give a shout out to Jason C. Brown for being the mediator.
JCB, thank you.
One of my all-time favorite people. Good man.
How was JCB as a student?
JCB was an awesome student. He was a very interesting character, you know. I don't know whether you know about his background, but he I mean, maybe he's a little embarrassed about this now. Maybe not. I mean, I think it's really cool, actually.
Let's embarrass him.
He was Hare Krishna at the temple.
Really? Interesting.
And it was really cool because him and a couple other Krishnas came in. Basically, they were getting their ass kicked down in South Street. As you can imagine, Philadelphia is not exactly the most tolerant place on. And
definitely not.
when you're dressing and acting a little bit different, it can cause some problems. So these guys all came in to learn basic jiu-jitsu self-defense. And one of the guys, the priest of the temple, this guy Pete, was actually quite excellent. And all the guys. And then I think Jason may still be active somewhat with that religion. I'm not sure, but it was very interesting, and I was fascinated myself because I understood the origins of grappling, and how it's tied into the roots of Hinduism, and Krishna was always depicted as a wrestler himself. So being the historian and so forth, I was always fascinated, by this little connection.
Sure. And
in the Vedic scriptures, of course, wrestling and archery are considered holy sports. So I just thought that was kind of cool that these young guys were coming in there and learning the manly art of self-defense. And nothing works better than Gracie Jiu-Jitsu for that.
The beautiful art, the gentle art.
Steve, this is Ames' question. Where did you start with jiu-jitsu? How did your journey start? Because when I first followed you, when I became a strength and conditioning coach, I followed you. I didn't even know you partook in jiu-jitsu. So then I found out recently that you are. So I think it's kind of cool. So can you give us a quick background how everything started?
Sure. I had fallen in love with wrestling as a young boy.
Okay.
I pretty much sucked at most sports. I was a little bit small for football, although I did play, but I just too little.
Okay.
And I wasn't fast enough for track and field, and I didn't have the endurance to be a distance runner. So where's that lead at?
Cross all those out.
I didn't have good hand-eye coordination. So forget baseball. We didn't have. I lived in farm country outside of Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So I didn't develop any kind of ball handling skills because there was no concrete or basketball hoops. But I'll tell you one thing we used to do a lot was wrestle out in the grass, and King of the Hill, and it was always wrestling type games.
Okay. Your father introduced you to it, or who introduced you to wrestling?
Well, my dad was an ex-Navy boxer. He was actually the Pacific Fleet champ, bantamweight champ in World War II.
Wow.
And I didn't particularly like boxing. I used to get really pissed off when my brother would hit me and throw the gloves off and tackle him down. And my dad said, "You're no boxer. You're a wrestler. You're going out for wrestling."
Wow.
So I had instant success in that sport. I just was made for it. I loved it, everything about it, the conditioning for it.
That's
and
awesome.
I later went on to major in health and physical education.
I see.
And wrestled at the Division I program at Westchester. It was the state teachers college at the time. And then I actually coached in the public school system for a couple of years in the Southeast Delco School District.
Wow.
So that was my background. And then, of course, after graduating, what do you do with wrestling? In those days, there was no UFC.
Yeah.
My college wrestling coach, Dale Bonsall, he's in the NCAA Coaches Hall of Fame. He was actually one of the coaches at Foxcatcher. You've all seen that
Oh, wow.
movie.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, so
that's right.
he invited me a few times. And I went up to Foxcatcher. But at that time, I had just been newly married, had a kid.
Okay, busy.
When a wrestler's always trained right in the middle of the working man's day. So
Okay.
it was hard to continue with that sport in any level, at any level that you could be good. So I just kind of dropped off and tried to replace it with, I tried Muay Thai, tried Kung Fu. I went through that whole Bruce Lee era, and I was pretty fascinated with Bruce Lee, and I found a Kung Fu instructor, but it wasn't my bag,
Yeah, you touched on everything.
Yeah, I mean, I tried it all. I tried karate, and I even tried Sambo. There was a Russian guy teaching Russian Sambo up in northeast Philly. But when I discovered the Gracies in 1989, that was mind-blowing. That was it for me. I said, this is what I've been looking for. Instantly fell in love with it. I asked Jorge and Gracie.
Yeah.
It was the first seminar on the East Coast. I said, hey, how can I learn this? And he said, hey, you got to come out to Torrance. And that's true. At that time, it was the only game in town. So I started going to the Gracie Academy and opened up my dream gym, Maxercise, in 1990
Classic.
January.
Wow.
And that was the start.
So
that was the ground floor.
You were responsible for planting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Philadelphia.
Well, it's funny. I opened up this place called Maxercise, and Hoist wrote me his autographed picture. It's still there. It says, thank you, Steve and DC, my wife at the time, for bringing Gracie Jiu-Jitsu to the East Coast. So it was like,
no big deal. Just bringing it to the East Coast.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
in those days, it really didn't make that much of an impression on me because no one really knew what it was.
Yeah.
You would say Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and people say, well, wait, you mean Japanese, right? And say, no, Brazilian. But isn't Jiu-Jitsu Japanese? And they would just go round and round, like they couldn't wrap their minds around it.
Yeah.
And they'd still confuse it with karate. Isn't that Taekwondo? Isn't that karate? That's the same thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, don't you guys do those kicks and stuff? It's pretty funny. And it was really, really impossible to explain to people back in the day. And then after I got established with the Gracies, I went out there a lot. And then I called up my old wrestling buddies, and there was, I just grabbed anybody I could.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we started like what they called a training associate at that time because I wasn't really qualified to teach. I was only, like a blue belt myself.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And this was, like I say, 1990. I got my blue belt in about a year because of my wrestling.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then I got my purple belt in about a year and a half.
That's great.
Just because I was, pretty competent wrestler. But there I stayed. I reached the height of my ineptitude.
Yeah. Your wrestling can only take you so far.
Yeah.
Only so far. I basically had wrestler jits. My guard pretty much consisted of like just kind of sticking my knee in your chest and standing up on base and jumping back to my base.
So classic. But the funny thing is that style works like very well.
Until you start reaching good brown and black belt to know how to keep you down and pass your guard no matter what, man.
Absolutely.
Once I started running into those guys. But at the time, I was like a big fish in a little pond. I didn't really have anybody to give me much. And I kept going out to California, and Jorge and Master Helio Gracie started what they call the instructor training program. They wanted to teach people basically how to teach their family self-defense system. And
Okay.
That's crazy.
at that time, self-defense was a very integral part of the jiu-jitsu. And the separation between the sport aspect and the self-defense hadn't started at that time.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, of course, Hoyce figured very big into my plans. Hoyce's wife used to teach for me as an aerobics instructor, and also was my kid's babysitter.
Yeah.
And he used to come out quite a bit and stay with me, and I was his strength and conditioning coach for this first
for UFC 1. Is that correct?
Well, actually, all the UFCs. I trained him basically using a very same approach. We were using high-intensity training system back then.
Okay.
I was very much into HIIT, and I still think it's a really viable way to train. I mean, half the NFL still trains that way.
No.
Anyone that says it doesn't work is kidding themselves, man.
What was Hoyce's training like?
Yeah, like what did you put him through? What kind of workouts? That's so interesting.
It really is.
Well, the basic premise is this: you get all this crap about cross training. It's been well documented that one sport doesn't make you better at doing another sport.
Okay.
This concept of trying to do a lot of different cross training. In essence, he was just doing basic strength training.
I see.
And then using jiu-jitsu as a way of conditioning himself for the specific conditioning needs of jiu-jitsu.
Sure. Just rolling harder.
Wrestling with like sharp weight drills, sending fresh guys in every 2 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
Or wrestling with really heavy guys, or handicapping him in some way by starting him in a really bad position. The guy already has on the back with hooks with maybe a choke set, or maybe mounted, or
was
even
he
worse, a partially closed triangle or something like that. And then you have to work your way out of all those things.
Was he training in the gi at these times when he was training for
Yes, he was.
UFC?
Yeah, he always wore the gi.
Wow. Even for his MMA fights?
Yeah. He went into the – if you look at the early
he did
UFCs,
wear his
he always wore the gi. He figured he could use it as a weapon, and he always made a good point.
Sure.
He said, if I wear a gi, people are just kind of unconsciously going to grab onto the material.
Yeah.
And if they're grabbing me, they're not punching me. And he said, look.
Intelligence.
And then, he figured, like, look, I'm used to being grabbed. I can deal with that. Punches, I prefer to avoid those. He felt that people would just almost subconsciously just grip onto the jacket.
Yeah.
And he felt that he was more than, able to defend that.
Sure.
And
Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is all about closing the distance. So when somebody goes to grab his gi, they're closing the distance for him, which gets him in his range. So wow, that works on so many levels.
Strategic excellence.
So many levels. And it's interesting because, the Gracie family learned this directly from a Japanese immigrant by the name of Eista Maeda. And Maeda was credited by Helio Gracie as the one that taught his family the basic jiu-jitsu. And Maeda was the guy that originally came up with a lot of these strategies for fighting karate, boxers, wrestlers, and so forth.
Wow. Interesting.
Maeda was a pretty bad dude.
Yeah. What's your
those early days were really exciting. I mean, it really was like the Wild West. You just never knew what was going to happen. I mean, heck, we used to get challenge matches all the time, even at Maxercise.
There we go.
It was unbelievable. And we would explain to people, look, man, we're just students, I'm just a blue belt or a purple belt, later as a brown belt. It's like, you want to call Hoyce Gracie, man.
Nope.
Would those challenges come in weekly, or how often would those challenges come out?
There was usually one, maybe sometimes even two a month. That was happening a lot in those early days.
And Steve.
Jorge and Gracie had actually taken out he had written an article in Playboy magazine.
Okay.
Basically saying that they were so confident in their family's martial arts style that they would be willing to put $100,000 on the line, to take on anybody.
Yeah.
And they got a pretty big response to that. But what would happen was, the way it was supposed to work, they would bring their pile of money, and you would have your pile of money. You'd put it all in one big pile, and the winner would take it all. But see, these guys would come in with no money, and they wouldn't get it.
It's like a movie scene.
They just want to fight.
What is your relationship now with the Gracie family?
I'm still on pretty good terms. every now and again I'll cross paths with Hoist. I do a lot of his training associations still have me to do workshops and seminars.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't talked to Hoyan in quite a while. House and I had a bit of a falling out after I received my black belt. There was a bit of falling out between my ex-wife and him, basically, and we just kind of went our own way. So, he was pretty bummed out and wasn't too keen on Steve Maxwell. Max was out for a while, but I saw him just recently at the Valencia Brothers down in Miami.
Okay,
they were the last people to get a black belt directly from Master Helio Gracie. Their father is a red belt, and their grandfather is a red belt.
Wow!
So they come from a long lineage, and they're kind of a destination for many, many people in the jiu-jitsu community to look at reality self-defense based jiu-jitsu. So I saw him down there, and things seemed pretty cool. He was pretty personable, and made me feel really good.
I see.
To see that maybe old wounds had healed.
Yeah.
Now I have a question about like modern training. If you were to recommend to a modern jiu-jitsu competitor what their strength and conditioning should look like aside from their jiu-jitsu training, what would you recommend to them? Because there's so much debate out there that you have to do this and you have to do that, or just roll hard and only strength train, or don't use any barbells, only kettlebells, only body belt,
Olympic lifts.
Like what would you recommend to someone who's like a brown belt? He's taking competition seriously now, he's competing at the high levels. What would you recommend to someone like that as far as their workouts?
First of all, jiu-jitsu is such an intense sport. It doesn't leave a lot of energy for other types of adaptations.
Sure.
So all grappling, including wrestling or judo or jiu-jitsu, is a form of strength training. Basically, every time you get in the mat, you're pitting your muscles against that of another person, and it is a form of strength training.
Sure.
The problem with it is you can't quantify it.
Right.
There's no way you can. But there are some very successful guys, naming just off the top of my head, Marcelo Garcia, for example, there's never lifted weights,
Yeah.
But then you get guys like Sean Giabero or Saulo Ribeiro that were very much into weight training,
Sure.
So you get everything in between.
I see.
So it's hard for the average guy to know because, for every jiu-jitsu champion, you may find like a slightly different type of training.
So would you recommend? I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to get into it. I just want to preface with that first. Okay. Also, what a lot of guys listen. Most people are never going to be jiu-jitsu champions. By the way, They're never going to win the big prize.
That would be me, Steve.
They're into it for the fun and so forth.
Yes.
So they got to be very careful that they don't overtrain and they don't overdo it. So trying to do lots of cardio and sprints and swing airdyne and rowing and CrossFit is definitely a step in the wrong direction. You're going to simply get hurt. You're going to get burnt out. You're going to be sick. You're going to be injured.
Yeah.
You have to be very careful the way you add in supplemental training.
Sure.
And of course here's the catch. When two opponents of equal skill, let's say equal weight, equal skills, meet each other, the stronger, better conditioned guy will always win.
Sure.
That's a given. So how do you get strong without overtraining? I still embrace the high intensity training system where you're only training once or maybe even twice a week with just general exercise, and I never believe that explosive movements make you more explosive on the mat or anything else. I've never seen any research to carry that out.
Sure.
And you want to do fairly general exercises, relatively non-specific, and you don't need to do a lot of it. Just like a couple 20-minute workouts a week would be more than enough.
Okay.
I see.
What might be an example?
And anyone that doubts that, you don't have to look too far. There's been plenty of guys that use that system. I'll give you an example. When I wrestled pretty high level, I was actually wrestling a little bit internationally, and I went to the Montreal Open, which is attended by people all over the world. And I faced Victor Silverman in the semifinals. Victor Silverman was the European champion from Russia, and he was also Olympic bronze medalist. This guy was a badass. He'd also played placed third in the world. Wow. And he basically kicked my ass. But after the tournament, he was trying to defect to Canada at the time. And I asked him through his interpreter what the freestyle wrestling system was doing. I said, how often do you guys lift weights? He said, once a week. Wow. And I couldn't believe it. At that time I was, more into a more intense training regimen than that. And I couldn't wrap my mind around once a week. Are you kidding? So I asked him again, and the interpreter thought I was retarded or something.
Did I stutter?
And he says, we trained 4 times a month with weights.
Wow.
And then, most of the time is spent drilling, and they only wrestle live a couple times a week. They don't even wrestle hard more than twice a week, 1 weekly strength training. And, of course, there's just drill, and mobility, flexibility, and all that kind of stuff. But it's not hard. They don't smash themselves like American wrestlers do.
Yes.
So when I was in college, man, we trained every day, sometimes twice a day. We were in that weight room, 3 times a week.
Yeah, just killing yourself.
Just killing yourself,
redlining.
Even when I was in my teen, I was a freshman at 17. Even, my teens and early 20s, my joints were hurting. I was tired all the time and beat up. And that's what we thought you had to do. But in reality, I think the Russians might have been smart, way smarter. They realized that you just end up burning out early, premature aging, osteoarthritis, and all that kind of stuff. And, guys are always asking me, well, should I do road work? Should I do cardio? Hell no. If you do strength training properly and along with the jiu-jitsu, you're getting all the cardio you need.
Yeah, especially rolling with guys your skill level.
Absolutely, and above your skill level,
100%.
Or heavy guys. Yeah, sometimes,
So you basically want to lift just to reinforce your body's muscles. So your jiu-jitsu takes over, and when you need that little it's there. But basic push-ups, basic pull-ups, basic. If you want to do a couple squats with kettlebells, but nothing fancy, so we don't run the risk of injury.
You don't need barbell Olympic snatches and all that kind of crazy stuff. There's nothing wrong with squats and deadlifts with the barbell, but you can do them just as safely, maybe safer with a kettlebell. Certainly, you can't get around dips and chins or pull-ups and bodyweight rows, classic push-ups.
Yeah.
And here's another really important key.
Okay.
You should never get hurt in training, right? I'm not talking about the practice of your sport. I'm talking about supplemental strength training. It should prevent injuries. And I can't tell you how many guys are hurting themselves in the weight room. Yeah. And that's unforgivable. That means basically you should really reassess what the hell you're doing in there.
That's true.
Too many guys are trying to become strength specialists or power lifters.
Okay.
That's, a jiu-jitsu man, he has no business trying to become a strength specialist. Now, how strong do you need to be, right? If some guy that is strong enough to, let's say deadlift double body weight, that's pretty damn strong. How much stronger do you need to be? And is getting strong, you're already near your genetic limit. So trying to expand on that, it's going to take specialization.
Sure.
See, that's a waste of time. That's time you should be.
That's a different program you have to be on for that.
You should be practicing the skills of your sport, not worrying about becoming a skilled weightlifter or powerlifter.
You have to figure out: are you a jiu-jitsu guy that's doing supplemental strength training, or are you a powerlifter that's doing supplemental jiu-jitsu? Like, are you doing jiu-jitsu?
That's a very good point, also.
Yeah.
And it could be. You could be, let's say, a strong first guy or a powerlifter guy or whatever, and you just want to throw a little jiu-jitsu, just for fun.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And your primary purpose would be, indeed, seeing the numbers and the reps go up in the lift. Yeah. But if you're serious about jiu-jitsu, well, then, that's just a sideline. You're just lifting to keep your joints strong, develop a connective tissue strength, develop good mobility and so forth. And you want to do it in a way that's safe and not going to get you hurt.
So how do you feel about gymnastics? What would you consider gymnastics? Is safe, not safe?
Not safe. Gymnasts are one of the most frequently injured groups of athletes. Most gymnastic feats are very specific. It takes years of training to acquire some of those feats. And have you ever seen a competitive gymnast much over 21 or 22 years old?
No. We actually have a student. He just started training jiu-jitsu because I don't want to call him out, but he hurt himself. He was like number 1 in the state for gymnastics, trying to make the Olympic team, and he hurt his shoulder. He tore his rotator cuff. And now he's training jiu-jitsu because he really can't compete in gymnastics at a high level. So
that's a very common thing.
Yeah.
And you're talking to a guy here that's 63 years old now. And for a lot of your older athletes, gymnastics is just a foolish waste of time. You're basically demonstrating skill of body, I guess bodily awareness and body control is what you might call it. And I mean, I admire gymnasts, believe me, I do. I think they're amazing. But here's the mistake a lot of people make. They'll see a gymnast with a fantastic physique, that awesome 8-pack that these guys have.
Lean.
The big biceps. And,
big shoulders.
I mean, everyone would like to look like that. So they assume that doing gymnastics would be the way to do that. What they don't realize is that the person with the right body proportions and the right genetics is immediately successful in gymnastics. And that the successful gymnasts already have the propensity towards that type of physique. And
all the other guys got weeded out. That's why we don't see them.
For every YouTube wonder, there's 10,000 guys that crashed and burned.
That's true.
Very true.
It's like the women, back in the 80s, it used to drive me crazy as strength trainer. At that time, dance exercise was very popular. Jennifer Beal with flash dance.
I remember her.
She spawned a whole industry, and all these young women would come in and say, I want a dancer's body. I want a dancer's body. And, they'd be sometimes as wide as they are tall. And you're trying to tell these poor girls, harder. Listen, man, these girls that are successful in dance, they already have the short torso, long legs necessary to be successful in dance.
Sure.
That doing dancing is not going to change your genetic structure. You'd be much better off doing a scientific weight training and get much more benefit out of that than trying to do all this dancercise. You're just going to be frustrated.
Dancercise. So you're saying don't practice dancercise with weights in your hand? That's a no.
With a kettlebell? So don't do that.
That would be a no.
This is why I wanted to talk to you.
Yeah, we got to the root.
Clear it out now.
But there's a lot of misconceptions. Another example, imagine you're an alien and you've never seen Earthlings before, and you beam down for the first time on Earth, and you beam into an NBA basketball game. And you're sitting in the audience and you're observing the people in the audience are relatively short.
Yeah.
And then you look out there in the court and there's guys damn near 7 foot tall.
Yep.
And they're dribbling and playing this game. You could make the assumption, and it wouldn't be completely illogical, that dribbling that ball makes you taller. And that therefore if you and that's the same kind of logic people are using to try to emulate athletes.
That's a really good way to put it. I never thought of it that way.
So do you believe in basic, just practicing handstands, for example, or ring pull-ups? Those are basic gymnast kind of exercises. So would you stay away from those? Because I practice
Abe wants to get into gymnastics. That's why
I just practice handstands, and I want to know what I should stay away from.
Well, no, I mean, there's certainly nothing wrong with inversions like that. Simple handstand can be a viable shoulder exercise. I mean, if you're strong enough to do handstand push-ups, that's a terrific general strength builder for the shoulders. Most people aren't. I usually recommend either doing dive bombers or what they call pike push-ups,
Okay.
Because few people have the strength to actually do handstand push-ups. But it can, if you can do it without hurting yourself, why not?
Sure,
it's certainly it's basically the body weight equivalent of the overhead press with barbell shoulders. So if you like doing body weight exercises, there's certainly nothing wrong with that. Ring pull-ups or chin-ups can be excellent. some people, their wrists and elbows and shoulders don't tolerate straight bars very well, especially if you've been tweaked, doing your jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
So with the ring, or let's say a suspension device like Jungle Gym or TRX, your wrists and your elbows find their own natural path. They're not in this fixed bar that forces you to conform to the bar. So a lot of people that have had some injuries due to jiu-jitsu find that ring pull-ups or chin-ups are much more user-friendly on the elbows and the shoulders. Your joints kind of find their own path, so to speak.
So our supplemental training, in all of our supplemental training to our jiu-jitsu, we need to find the way to minimize our risk of injury 100% across the board.
Correct.
That should be the basis of every exercise we do, every workout we do, supplemental to our jiu-jitsu training.
By making the joint stronger through its natural range of motion, you make it less susceptible to injury.
Sure.
Injury-proof yourself.
Yeah.
With jiu-jitsu, you're going to get hurt. There's no if about it. It's just a matter of when. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
But with strength training, you should never get hurt.
Yeah.
The only people that should be getting hurt are Olympic lifters or powerlifters.
Professionals.
That's their sport. They're pushing the limits of their own structural integrity. Of course, you're going to eventually find that breaking point and get hurt.
Sure.
But that's for them. That's their sport.
But
for
we
us,
shouldn't get hurt doing fixed movements.
Hell no.
Yeah.
Not at all, man. Not at all.
That's what I realized. Just being a trainer and not turning into a meathead, because I really enjoy jiu-jitsu. I had to realize I shouldn't be trying to squat heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. I had to think about the longevity and like how I'm going to feel when I'm older. So it just kind of not squat, because I really love clean and jerk and the snatch. Those are my favorite movements. But now I just really practice it maybe twice a week. So it's good to hear this from you, because it just kind of
reinforces what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu changed you, Ames.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Well, it takes a lot of pressure off too, because now you don't have to conform to any particular set of arbitrary standards.
Yeah.
I mean, who the hell decides that a double body weight deadlift is good? Or who said that 20 pull-ups is the be all end all?
Yes.
I mean, who's making this shit up? You know what I'm saying?
Tell him, Steve.
Well, think about this too. Like, it's all about the style of performance, right?
Yeah.
Like, I saw a guy in the gym the other day, and he wasn't quite doing kipping pull-ups, but he was using a bit of body English, and he was going super fast.
Okay.
And he did almost 25 pull-ups.
For what?
And 25.
Yeah.
But it was like 2 seconds per rep, literally 1 second up, 1 second down. And then I was working with a guy, and I had him do his nice slow 4 seconds up, 4 seconds down, and he did about 6.5 reps.
Yeah.
If you look at and 4 seconds up, 4 seconds down with a pause at the top,
more work. Time.
Well, if you look at the time under load,
yes,
the dude that did the 6.5 reps actually had 55 seconds time under load, where the guy doing the 1 second reps had 50 seconds under load.
Yeah.
The guy that did the slower, controlled, high tension reps got a much better workout, less aggravation on the joints, less jerking and yanking and so forth, and basically had longer time under load. So it's not always about how many you do or even how heavy the weight is. It's the way you do it. And you can take a light weight and you can put yourself in biomechanically inefficient positions, and boy, that light weight feels twice as heavy.
Yeah.
And you can work yourself really, really hard and get a really good strength adaptation without unnecessarily subjecting your joints to super, super heavy loads.
That's true. That kind of translates too from that perspective into jiu-jitsu, like not rushing your reps. If you're drilling, not just getting 30 reps, but getting like maybe 5 good. Yeah. Am I correct me if I'm wrong? But
absolutely.
You could
absolutely
drilling.
Absolutely.
That translates. So I have another question about. A lot of people are like, I mean, I know this has been going on for a long time, but everything starts to get popular nowadays. And one of the main things that's getting popular are these coordination drills where you see these professional MMA fighters throwing balls while they're balancing on one foot.
Ball.
Yeah. How do you feel about, again, it doesn't have to be as extreme as that, but how do you feel about those types of coordination drills where you have to react quickly, but it's not your sport? It's
How does that make you feel?
How does that make you feel?
It's just like watching a stupid pet trick.
There you go.
Oh my god.
It's just silly
boy.
stuff. You
Here,
know,
boy.
I agree with Nate Diaz. You know, with the let's just take the latest scene with the when he was criticizing some of the drills that
No, Conor McGregor. With Ito.
Conor McGregor. Right. And you know, he was calling it touch buttons.
Yeah, there you go. I was trying to figure out what did he say.
Yeah, basically though, he is right. I mean, doing a bunch of just silly drills and movement for the movement's sake, you're just learning new movement skills. But for what end?
Sure.
I mean, my God, in our sport, jiu-jitsu, there's literally thousands of movement patterns.
Absolutely.
And so many combinations. You know, if I was the guy's coach, I would have him drilling all those basic positions you use in MMA grappling.
Like mount escapes.
You certainly don't need to do, you know, and listen, swinging a pool noodle at someone's head is not that's not the same thing as ducking a punch, man.
At all.
So like you said about weight, it's more about your time under the load.
Tension,
So if you're training for a fight, you should spend more of your time training in that sport
specific
and sport specific and doing drills.
Specific. And as close to fight conditions as possible.
Sure.
You know, obviously you can't be taking a lot of punches all the time in the head. That's just not
No,
viable.
but pad drills, like you said,
but you
jiu-jitsu
get as
drills.
close as you can, as close as you
Yeah.
can. The problem with a lot of these non-specific type movement drills, they're basically you're just learning a new skill that has nothing to do with. There's no transfer. You know, in motor learning, which was one of my subsets in school, you know, you have like a positive transfer, a negative transfer, or maybe a neutral transfer where nothing happens. So at the very best, most of those type of drills have a neutral transfer. And sometimes it actually causes motor learning confusion and causes it to become worse instead of better. And
Motor confusion. Is that what you said?
Yeah, motor learning confusion.
I see.
I like
So
that.
you want to stay as sports specific as possible.
Sure.
So, you know,
So,
believe me, these MMA guys, my God, they have all the wrestling skills, right? The takedown prevention, right? Also, takedown in the middle of the ring versus takedowns against the cage wall.
Yeah.
That's the whole. Now you also have your ground game where you're practicing bottom ground game, top, cross side, half guard, and bottom cross side, half guard, and then all your defenses in case you do get mounted or your back gets taken. And now you got your kicks and your punches and putting that together with clinches. My God. That is a full-time job right there.
If anything, take up another martial art. That's what I don't understand what these people are doing. You're practicing all these extra movements, like you said, that
Cartwheels.
have nothing to do with your fighting style, and you're about to compete in a professional fight. How about practice a new martial art? You do Muay Thai and wrestling and jiu-jitsu. How about try savate, French kickboxing? How about try anything? Do
Dim Mak?
Do the dim match. But now you're getting somewhere because maybe you can use a couple of those movements into your fighting style, which is what you're getting paid for, what your thing is. Otherwise, you might as well just be playing basketball on the side or learning a new
patty cake.
Yeah, I mean, and
double dutch.
And just to show you how specific the body is, even this so-called thing called balance is very specific to what type of balance is required. There was a landmark study done at Temple back when I was in school where they took guys and put them on like one of those they call them bongo boards. You know, it's like it looks like a skateboard.
With that little cylinder on the bottom.
Yeah, a little cylinder. You know, it takes a lot of balance to get good at that.
Yeah.
And then they had people walking on a balance beam. One group was standing on like a teeter board. That was they hadn't invented Bosu balls back then, but they had these teeter boards.
Yeah.
And then there was another one where they would stand on one foot with their eyes shut. And the guys got pretty good, and that's hard to do, by the way.
Yeah, that's very hard.
Seconds. So they trained, for 8 weeks and got very, very good at their particular type of balance drill that they were asked to do.
Okay.
And then they switched, and they all sucked. And it was like,
Wow.
oh, well, I guess there really isn't any such thing as balance.
Ah. It's balance specific.
Balance specific, and the body is very specific that way. So, pool noodles and all that stuff seems maybe like it could help.
Yeah.
Doing touch butt,
That's cute.
balancing in your hands and
Head spins.
Flipping around and doing all this break dancing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of cool looking.
Sure.
But it's not going to help you in the middle of the cage.
Yeah.
When Nate Diaz is sitting on your chest.
And he's throwing bombs, and that brings me back to what I was saying. Like, you might as well just start playing basketball and start drilling basketball movements, because basketball, if you train it like a professional, they're doing a lot of up and down movements down the court, a lot of jumps, a lot of explosive movements. They work their hips so much. That's what you're trying to gain in your supplemental training that's non-jiu-jitsu related. You might as well do that. It's not getting you any better at your sport. Instead of
you might as well have fun doing something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But instead of throwing pool noodles, why isn't your trainer throwing pads at you or holding gloves and you dodging them with gloves on?
Exactly.
The pool noodle thing I never got.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel. People have known since the times of ancient Sparta, the first professional army, that the proper way to train. The ancients knew. They knew. And they knew a long time ago that this type of sports specific type training was the way to go.
Yeah, Steve, you've been in the game for a long time. You've seen a lot of things come and go. Was there any methods out there, or is there a method right now, or any kind of thing that really just pisses you off? Just like, oh gosh, this again, or is it really the pool noodle, and we move on from there?
Well, do you mean methods as far as people claiming to train fighters, or
just anything like let's go in strength and conditioning.
Well,
aspect.
I've been pretty animately against CrossFit.
Okay.
I really see that as very, very harmful.
Yes.
First of all,
let's quit your job.
Well, it is a cult. There's no doubt it's a cult. I've talked to people that were literally ostracized for going to other seminars, sponsored by other people.
No kidding.
Gym. And I look at the founder of CrossFit, Greg Glassman, who's younger than me, is basically an obese cripple.
Yeah, that's like I
look at that guy. It's like, do you want to follow the guidelines of a guy that doesn't even train? Wow. I mean, he's writing your workout of the day. Is that?
But look at jiu-jitsu founders, the people that brought us jiu-jitsu, guys like everybody you mentioned, the whole Gracie family. Everybody
live the lifestyle.
They live to a very old age, very slim, very healthy.
Master Helio was like almost 95 years old and still getting on the mat. Yeah. His brother Carlos is 103. Towards the end, obviously, they became very feeble and somewhat frail. But I remember getting a lesson with Helio when he was like past 85. And he was, you still couldn't go and just do something to him without getting hurt. You know what I mean?
Can you just,
it's like you couldn't just go up and slap him or grab him.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, it's like, ow. He was still very capable at defending himself. And, there's plenty of other guys that have stood the test of time. See, the people I go to are people that have already crossed the other side. People well over 60.
Okay.
When it comes to longevity training and so forth, remember the old hippie statement, don't trust anyone over 30?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was back in my generation, the 60s. Well, I say don't trust anyone under 60 when it comes to your diet and your...
That's true.
Because you need some guy that's been there, done that, gone to the other side. So I looked at guys like Nikolai Amosov, who was in his late 80s and came up with 1,000 moves to heaven mobility routine. Okay. I looked at guys like Jack LaLanne, that was a Santa Monica weightlifter and bodybuilder, and became like a fitness icon. Had the first fitness TV show. I looked at Master Helio Gracie was another guy. I look at Alexei Kadasnikov, who's in his 80s. Yeah, that one of the founders of Russian martial arts. And what were these guys doing? Yeah. Chandor Rimiti from Shaga Yoga is near 70 years old. Wow. And was with Iyengar in India for 17 years and came up with his own yoga style. those are the guys I want to look at. You know,
Yeah.
these are the guys that like, hey, they've been through to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
They know what it's like to be on both sides of the equation, and they're good resources as a man ages because
Exactly.
most of the guys out there probably even listen to this podcast. Most of them, if they keep going the way they are, they're not going to be doing jiu-jitsu.
No, they're going to get hurt quick.
Redlining too much, right?
I meet guys all the time.
Quit your
that are
CrossFit
just
membership.
Oh, no. Don't say that.
Busted up, injured. So, you know, you got to, your routine has to be sustainable.
Okay.
It has to be sustainable.
Yeah. Steve.
It has to be something that you see yourself doing 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And if you don't, you should start to think strongly about what the hell you're doing and why you're doing it. And, you know, what are the implications on your long-term health and so forth.
Steve, can you, the fan in me wants to know, can you elaborate on your experience with Grandmaster Helio Gracie and your session with him? Like, can you give us a history lesson on what went down that day?
Any cool stories?
And Hicks and Gracie.
Well, when I first started the Gracie Academy, all the brothers were there as one big happy Gracie family. And then the divorces started. But
unfortunately.
Horian being the divorces were painful for the students, by the way. It was kind of like, well, do I go with mom or do I go with dad? You know? But Horian being the oldest son, he started the Gracie instructor training program. I was the first person to graduate from that program. And it was under the close supervision of both Horian, the oldest son, and Master Helio himself. So, boy, talk about pressure. You know, to be doing they would videotape you teaching the classes, and then they would critique your teaching.
Holy
talk
cow.
about like,
no pressure. No pressure at all.
And you knew you were being taped too, so that was like, wow,
worse,
man,
that's nerve-wracking.
I want to do good.
Yeah.
But Helio didn't really speak English much, but he had this universal style of teaching. I lived with him for a month on his farm in Terrazopolis, and up in the mountains. And wow, he used to. He realized that I like milk, so he used to go out and he would milk the cows fresh every day by hand. And he would bring me a liter of fresh raw cow milk straight from these organically fed cows every day because he knew I liked it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he knew I liked the cheese. He used to make his own fresh cheese.
Jeez.
And he would take the milk and make this delicious, talk about high protein, delicious cheese. And then he would make that special for me sometimes. So he really treated me.
You got the VIP treatment.
Wow, not many people would say that.
Man.
Yeah.
Did he feed his cows acai?
No, but he had an acai tree right outside.
Of course. Why would...
Did you pluck from that tree?
And he would pluck from the tree.
There we go.
I have to tell you, it may be disappointing, but acai is gas.
Yeah, you really have to sweeten it. Yeah.
It's nasty. Dude.
No kidding.
I've had unsweetened acai.
It is bitter, man.
Yeah.
The only reason Americans like it because they load it up with sugar.
Oh.
Usually they
It's
put
like-
guarana in it. Yeah.
It's like frozen yogurt or something, man.
No kidding. Here I am thinking, oh man, this is the best.
So to tell you the truth, the American plum is just as nutritious as the acai. If you look at it nutrient
Oh, no.
for nutrient.
You're starting a new trend.
Well, you know, these big food companies.
Plum
they like
bowls.
to
I was gonna say.
They like to import the big superfoods, get everyone
And hike it up,
excited.
jack it up,
Yeah, the price is 6 times
Makes
that
sense.
of
Like wheat.
a humble Pennsylvania plum. But if you look at the nutrient profiles, you'll find that the Pennsylvania cherries and apples and plums and peaches have just as many nutrients as any acai from South America. Believe me.
Wow.
Interesting.
But Steve, they're not
Better off
superfoods.
just eating.
How can you say that? They're not superfoods.
So I can make a bow with them. That's what you're telling me. Thank you, Steve.
So don't eat acai bowls; they're overrated. Eat
And,
plum bowls.
There
Plum,
you
peach,
go.
cherry
American
bowls.
plum.
Just making yourself a nice, and it's certainly. Oh, you know a great little recipe. It's like right out of the Gracie.
Ooh, give it to us.
No, it's a wonderful little dessert type of thing.
Okay.
You take bananas and you freeze them in your freezer. And and you freeze them overnight. And then you throw them in the blender and you whip them up. I mean, just whip them they turn into this ice cream-like mix.
Mm.
And it's just basically frozen banana. It's the most delicious thing you ever try. It's actually right in Philly. Someone's actually making a banana whip like that.
Yeah, I've heard of a company doing that actually.
Nice.
Yeah, no, you can buy it fresh, but it's really popular. But if you're looking for, everyone loves a nice treat once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But better to keep it somewhat healthful.
True.
And I tell you, that banana whip tastes better than ice cream to me, at least.
It sounds good. Banana whip.
Yeah, I've tried it. I went to this one college where my girlfriend used to go, and right on campus they have these little frozen yogurt store type places, and there was one store that was selling just frozen blended bananas, like you're saying.
Interesting.
And I tried it. It was actually very lovely.
You better.
So easy to make, so good for you.
Yeah.
And you can, if you want a bowl, you can mix a little spirulina powder in there.
Okay.
And then you just chop up a couple bananas on top, sprinkle a little granola, maybe some cacao nibs. You see, you make your own little bowl.
There you go.
And
open
it's
up a store.
100% super healthy, no added sugars. Just as nature intended.
Do you eat stuff like that on a regular basis, or
Yes,
what does your diet
I do.
look like?
I'm very strict about food combined, very similar to the Gracie diet, but even stricter than that.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I want mixed starches and proteins. I learned about this diet from a couple of different sources, but I became convinced that if you have what I refer to as crowded nutrition, where you just have like a whole bunch of different foods all mixed together in your plate, it really tends to make you overeat. And because your taste buds get stimulated, and your senses get stimulated, and when you're mixing a whole bunch of different stuff together plus a dessert, it's really easy to overdo and overeat. So I will basically have a fruit-based meal, a starch-based meal, and a protein salad meal.
Okay.
Starches would be something like sweet potatoes. Occasionally I'll have like whole grain crackers.
Okay.
Occasionally I'll actually have rice, but not too often, but occasionally.
Okay.
Would it be brown rice?
No, I like white rice.
My man.
Starchy. Yeah, something easy to digest.
Now we're talking.
But I don't think there's any real health benefit to brown rice over white rice, really, ultimately.
Yes.
But it's not even what you eat; it's what you can digest. Digestion is assimilation. So even though these guys are pounding like a lot of protein and stuff, a lot of times they're actually disrupting their own digestion. They're not assimilating this. Partially digested protein molecules are passing through the gut membrane into the bloodstream and causing all sorts of inflammatory response. And I find that eating this way, I tend to undereat. I don't overeat.
I see.
I keep, I'm able to keep pretty lean.
Do you partake in fasting at all? And
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Anytime, the moment I even start to get cold symptoms, I recommend.
Wow. How long do you fast for?
Well, I have fasted up to 14 days.
Wow. I thought we were going 24, 42.
3-day fast is good.
Okay.
But if you're feeling ill, if you're starting to have a cold or anything, you can just nip it right in the bud.
Yeah.
By just abstaining for food for even 24 hours. You'd be shocked at how your body's immune system will kick in. Because remember, digestion is a burden. It takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So if you're overburdening your digestion and you start coming down with any kind of flu or cold-like symptoms, you're just going to get worse and worse if you insist on eating. Better off just backing off.
Yeah.
If you can't hack fasting, I tell people just eat fruit, something real light, or even just drink soup or broth or something like that.
I see.
Yeah, your body uses vital energy to digest, which you would want it to be used for your metabolism to get rid of this illness. So yeah, that makes total sense. Stop eating, slow down on your eating. You're sick, man.
Relax a little bit.
I recommend that your listeners look up this book. It's one of the best books ever written about the subject. It was written by a turn-of-the-century American physician by the name of Dr. John Tilden, who used fasting to cure so-called incurable diseases. He didn't believe in using harmful drugs and medications. It's called Toxemia Explained. Toxemia Explained by Dr. John Chilton. And if you look it up, you'll find there's a free PDF. You can download that book. It's out of print. And
Definitely will.
And the information never is, I mean, it'll be timeless.
Wow.
1,000 years from now, somebody will still be quoting that book.
I see. Steve, what does your day look like? Because you seem like you're a very busy guy just because you have so many passions all over the place. What would a typical day from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep?
I usually arise pretty early, usually between 5 and 6, depending what time zone I'm in.
Okay.
I cross a lot of time zones. But I always have like a morning routine that I do. I actually have a videotape of the morning routine. It's like a whole health routine based on Ayurvedic principles. Tongue scraping, natural dry brush massage, head massage, neti pot to rinse the sinuses with like saline solution. Always do like a morning walk, and I'll push my breakfast back, which some people call intermittent fasting. I won't eat right away.
Okay.
I have in the past drank cold brewed coffee. I like to drink it with mixed with coconut water. But recently, I've been drinking Japanese matcha tea with coconut water. And then I'll go out and I'll walk. Sometimes I'll do some Zen running just because I find it meditative. Okay. There's a form of what I call non-conditioning running, where I don't care about the distance or how fast I'm going. I'm just going like a meditative kind of movement pattern. Practice deep breathing drills. I usually do some type of mobility mixed with Qigong. Okay. And then I'll come back and then I have online personal training programs. I work with athletes and just normal people too, all over the world, in China, Australia, Europe, Scandinavia. And so it takes me a couple hours of working on the iPad. Okay. I'm very careful not to sit too much. I get up and I move around, do some mobility. Yeah. Maybe every 30 minutes so I don't, get the forward head and the kyphotic curve. And then I'll usually have my first meal, usually, either a starch or a fruit-based meal, and then I'll have my chief meal about 2:00. And then just before bed, usually about 7, I'll have a very light little supper. Usually either if it's hot weather, fresh fruits. Okay. If it's cold weather, sometimes soup. Okay. Soup maybe as a salad, but pretty light. Steve. Now that my appetite just isn't what it used to be, and I think I feel better the later I eat.
Awesome. When do you fit in the high fructose corn syrup?
Afternoon or night?
Never. Occasionally I will have a movie theater popcorn.
There we go. I was going to ask that.
Only if it's cooked in coconut oil. If
you're a coconut guy.
Oil, sometimes I'll sneak my own popcorn in there.
Nice. Do you prefer coconut? Do you prefer coconut water? Is there one that you like the most?
Like a brand, you mean?
Actually,
he likes the coconut.
Well, they get the coconut. I'm in Maui right now, so they just pull them off the tree.
Man. We're in New Jersey.
Is that you live in Maui, Steve?
Actually, I don't live in here. I'm a digital nomad. I just roam from place to place.
I see.
Every few weeks. From here, I'm leaving to LA. Yeah. LA to Chicago. Chicago back to LA. Then LA to New York. New York to Greece. Just goes round and round.
Yeah, a bunch of seminars, I'm assuming?
A lot of these are seminars, yeah.
Okay.
Last year, for example, we started out from New York to Beijing to Shanghai.
You're a world
Shanghai to Tokyo to Kyoto to Hiroshima, then to Sydney to Perth. To
what
Cairns.
A life.
No big deal. Just traveling the world.
Jakarta, Bali.
Oh, wow.
It just goes and goes.
Yeah. Where haven't you been? That's the real question.
And not so many places. India. I have not been to India.
Oh, what?
How about Egypt? Have you ever been to Egypt?
No, I haven't. Now I've been to Bahrain, which is right across the channel there.
You have to see the Great Pyramids of Egypt.
Abe will take you around.
I have been to Dubai, Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
I get to that part of the world. I have a guy that brings me out here to Bahrain.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you have a favorite spot or a favorite country that you visited?
Or lived
Well,
at?
I mean,
sure.
Maui's definitely like a separate country almost.
That's a beautiful place.
It's definitely one of my favorite places in the world. But I really like Australia quite a bit. Sydney is a fantastic
I've always wanted to
city.
go there. Nice.
Melbourne too. I'm kind of torn between the two. Yeah, those are my. I love Germany, by the way.
Okay.
I like the German people.
Friendly.
I have a lot of good German fan base, so I get a lot of work in Cologne, Berlin, Munich. I really like the Germans, and of course Austria is another fantastic place. Man.
Nice.
Steve, do you have a mother base? Like you have
what?
Do you have a mother base, a home base?
No, not. I live out of a 45-liter bag. Everything I own in this world, I carry in my little bag.
That's great, man.
3 pair of shorts, 3 pair of pants, 4 t-shirts.
Minimalist.
And an American plum.
down jacket,
There you go.
pair of sandals and pair of leather trainers, and that's about it.
And you're good to go.
Good to go.
Well, Steve, we want to be conscious of your time, and we've gone a little over what we talked about. So I guess we can end it here. We really appreciate you coming
Absolutely.
on and
Thank you
getting
so
all this
much,
knowledge
Steve.
from you. You've been
Thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking to you young fellas. It's always fun to share some of the experiences from the past.
Will you come on again, like tomorrow?
Absolutely,
How about tomorrow?
Talk to
Get your people to call my people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, to tell the truth, I'm not such a great organizer, but she's a fantastic organizer.
There you go.
So
Just like me. That's how I am.
Maxwell
she is
Help Desk.
really, really good. So,
Awesome.
yeah, the website's
please.
maxwellsc.com, and many of these things we talked about, I have tons of downloadable videotapes.
Okay. And do you have any social media channels that people can follow your journeys through each of these countries? I don't know, Instagram or Facebook?
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. Do them all.
Oh, on the Snap. What was your username? Or just Steve Maxwell?
Steve Maxwell.
No, it's
Perfect.
John Maxwell on Snapchat.
Thanks, Abe.
All right, Steve, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, brother.
Great talking to you guys.
Take care.
Take care.